Canada is currently suffering under the hardship of a weakened currency, the result of which is supposed to be an expansion of exports. This hasn't happened. It's supposed to open Canadian markets to the US and others. This hasn't happened to any degree of significance. It's supposed to force Canadians to spend within its borders instead of shopping elsewhere. This hasn't happened either. Canada is wounded from the job losses, oil market declines, current debt and deficits with the plan of promised increased deficit spending, hidden inflation rates, and unaffordable housing. The perfect storm is being created. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, I'm going to get into Canada specifically for all my Canadian friends who continuously ask for videos specifically about Canada. Here it is. But remember, if you're not from Canada, this does pertain to you as well. Let's get into this right away as we look at the Bank of Canada holding the key interest rate steady at 0.5%. They're not sure about what's going to happen. The central bank here in Canada, unsure whether the economy will suffer more losses. I do have to believe that they know where it is all heading. That brings me to this. Canada's inflation rate jumps to 1.6% in December as food costs surge. So if you're from Canada, you will probably question, is that a decimal place in between the 1 and the 6? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. Unfortunately, this propaganda out of the Globe and Mail is suggesting that it's 1.6% currently. I, for one, do not agree with this number at all. I'm sure many of you do, and I'll get into their calculations in a moment. But just looking at the food prices for the moment, we can see how high they have gone in a short period of time. And they do make countless excuses for why this is. However, if you don't want to call it inflation rates, whether it's currency fluctuations or anything else, all I care about is the effect on the pocketbook. Am I spending more money now than I did last year? If the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter what name you give it. That's how they tear this down. They always try to pigeonhole and really tear at the ends of things when we need to get to the heart of it. That's really all the Money GPS is about, your pocketbook. Canada's December inflation rate was the fastest in a year, led by double-digit gains for fruits and vegetables and a reduced drag from gasoline prices. While gasoline has gone down, it has not gone down in proportion, in relation to the oil price. Now, that it's obviously supposed to, but we haven't seen that at all. In fact, there's a huge markup in gasoline that we are experiencing currently in Canada. If you compare Canadian to US gasoline prices per liter or per gallon, however you want to do it, you will see that there is a dramatic schism in between the two. So, very important to note that there is much more going on here than just 1.6% inflation rates. So that brings me to what I wrote about in my book, where I discussed how they calculate inflation rates and how it is simply propaganda. Look at the quote I'm quoting here towards the top of the page. Inflation is when you pay $15 for the $10 haircut you used to get for $5 when you had hair. It's really a bit of humor, but it is true. The way that they calculate inflation doesn't match up to what is reality. And what we're talking about here is the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. Other countries may refer to it as something else, whether you live in the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, anywhere else, they all have some measure of inflation rates. The unfortunate part is that the government can modify the criteria at any given time, allowing them to make it seem lower than it really is. So they have this calculation of a basket of individual items, which supposedly will show you the cost of living. But when we analyze it and we look at it, go to the grocery store, pay your electricity bills, you will see that prices are in fact rising much more than what they suggest. So this basket of items can be manipulated at any given time. For example, if steak becomes too expensive, they have suggested that what people will do is instead of buying the steak, they'll buy ground beef. And that's what they'll learn to live with. And if ground beef becomes too expensive, they'll eat probably spam or something. And then if spam gets too expensive, perhaps they'll eat dog food and go on and on. But that's not a cost of living increase. That's actually another method of manipulation. It's not the same products year over year. So this is how they are able to get around this, showing us that it's 1.6%. It's total fraud. Fully stimulated. This is the best piece of propaganda I've seen in quite some time. The Bank of Canada is basically saying that the governing council determined not to cut rates, that the economy is already, get this, it's already being fully stimulated by low oil prices and the export advantages of a lower loonie, which will kick in only gradually. That's right, it's going to be gradual. After another recession and even worse things happen, after a collapse, then it will be kickstarted. That's the way they do this. The Canadian dollar has declined significantly since October, which means the non-resource sectors of our economy are receiving considerably more stimulus than we projected. So everything should be booming then. Is that the way it is? Absolutely not. People are worse off today than they were last year. Yet oil prices have declined significantly. Remember that. Despite the fact that oil has declined dramatically in the last, let's say, year and a half, compare that to our actual real dollar wealth. Things are more expensive. Housing is more expensive, electricity is more expensive, and food is more expensive. Those are, as far as I'm aware, the three most important things. Bills are going up, not down. So I don't care about their propaganda. Not added into the bank's calculations was the effect of fiscal stimulus promised by the Liberal government, which could boost inflation, but also make future bank outlooks even more optimistic. That's right. Everything's going to be fine because the government is going to take over and they are going to introduce fiscal stimulus. So let's stay on that point for a second here. As we look into Davos, Switzerland, out of the Star, Canada's plea to its international counterparts to open up their wallets and spend their way out of a worsening global economic slump is resonating among the world's economic power brokers. So Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, decides to not only commit to a deficit spending plan for Canada, he actually lobbies the rest of the countries to do the same. What is the current problem of this economic crisis we are in today? Financial crisis part 2 is the financial crisis part 1, and it's also everything before that, and that is the accumulation of too much debt. So the decision to add on top of that debt to fix the problem of debt is in fact the stupidest thing I have ever heard. But we are meant to bow down to these leaders, get on our knees and kiss their feet. Well, I am, for one, am not taking part in that. At a time when some countries are looking at austerity to help them pull through the shaky economy, Canadian cabinet ministers have been telling anyone they meet at the annual meeting that deficits are the way out of the downturn. That's right. Well, I don't necessarily agree with austerity the way that they do it. See, you need to shrink, for example, the military, all of the secret spying on citizens, and everything else that's making the countries more indebted and worse off generally, and give a boost to where it actually needs it. Not bank salaries, not Jamie Dimon's CEO bonus. We don't need those things to be rising. We don't need housing prices, the median, just for an example, out of Manhattan, that comes to my head, $1.1 million median home price. That's not needed. So it's a little bit ridiculous to read this kind of information. Interest rates are at historic lows. We can make significant investments because we have that, plus an opportunity with our low amount of debt. especially in comparison with other countries. That's right. We have a low amount of debt in Canada. It's only billions of dollars. So let's pile it on. We're doing better than other countries. So let's copy what they do and get into the maximum amount of debt we can and hope that everything will turn out okay. This is the same stupid ideas that I continue to read about every single country around the world. What I hear from other people in my position around the world is that this is the right initiative at this time, and we know it will make a difference for Canadians. That's right, they're going to get into a deficit of no greater than 10 billion. They promise. And of course, they'll break that promise just as always. Because what happens is they say $10 billion, but they get close to the 10 billion mark and perhaps unemployment doesn't really move and jobs are not being created and other programs are stalling. Well, they say, let's lobby for some more and more and more. Let's move on to this right here. As we look at the Minister of Finance, this is in one particular area, not everywhere, but the Minister of Finance not ruling off layoffs as the government asked departments, agencies, boards, and corporations to identify budget cuts totaling 30%. When you do the math, we're short 28% of the money we need to pay the bills. They're looking for bold initiative ideas. How are they going to pay off their debt? And that's on the corporate level, provincial level, any of the cities, anywhere. More debt now than before. So what they're going to do is get into more debt on every single level and allow it to happen. And be there to backstop it should it all attempt to collapse. All right, so we have Justin Trudeau and also the Canadian Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. They're all going around trying to spit out some propaganda. First, I should mention the fact that Justin Trudeau met the world's elite, as they call it, world elite behind closed doors in secret. Whenever there's discussions going on in secret, something really bad is going on, or else they would just do it on an open public forum. This is supposed to be the World Economic Forum, yet it is really just similar to a Bilderberg conference in many ways. Why are they behind closed doors? It doesn't make a single ounce of sense. And then, of course, they said chatting with Kevin Spacey and Bono on Wednesday evening. They're talking with celebrities during this time, wasting time. There is so much more important things than to be talking with celebrities about anything. It doesn't matter. Do that on your own time, not an official business. There's nothing that could be productive upon this. Okay, so all I wanted to say is if you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. I try to do as many videos about particular countries as I can, especially Canada, because many people are always asking for Canadian specific information. I'm trying to look into more details about every country. And as I collect that information, I total it up and then make a video on it. And then if you want to see country specific information, go to my main, the YouTube channel page for the Money GPS, scroll down and you will see the global economic collapse. And I have different videos for different countries over there. If you found this video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. If you head over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, which allows you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.